1.
All right, welcome to the second review of the evening. Up here is the game Glow with no W. There was a bit of confusion about that, as there is actually another game. There's a game with the proper spelling of Glow. It's probably why this one is called Glow.
Something misspelling is copyrightable.
Yeah, and also distinct. Anyway, so this is probably going to be a pretty short review because this is, if you can see from the trailer, it's a pretty simple game. Like, I'll admit, I didn't play all that much because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I hated pretty much every fucking minute of playing this game. And you might be wondering why, given the trailer footage. It looks like a perfectly playable puzzle platformer. Like, albeit one with
I just downloaded it because it's cheap, and I'm playing it right now, and I can back you up on that. Yeah, it does not play as smooth as it looks.
Yeah, like I said, this is one of the great difficulties of video game review conveyance. Sometimes the problem with a game isn't in the look or, in like the trailer. Like, okay, so you might be asking, what is the problem? Well, the problem...
You're a featureless square. The environment is made of featureless squares. You have to wall jump a lot, and it's weirdly sticky.
Yeah, I'm like, so this game basically has like the mechanics and physics of Super Meat Boy for some reason, and I don't know why. Here's the thing, like, that kind of gameplay isn't meshing super well with the aesthetic and the gimmicks that are on play here.
Yeah, the gimmick of this game is that you can't see except for a small radius around yourself, a small radius around the target of the stage, and then a few other features.
Right. And it's not so bad in the first few levels, but, very quickly you're going to discover how annoying this is. Not just the slippery controls, but the fact that you can't see.
Well, here's the thing that comes up pretty early and pretty, significantly. You have to single wall jump up things. And then, like, you don't have great control over momentum, so when you get to the top, you accidentally jump over the entire thing you're trying to land on top of.
Yeah, or you'll hit your head. You'll hit your top, and you'll screw up your jump. Like, the wall jumping is pretty terrible. Like, and that's significant because that's a core mechanic. Like, you're going to be wall jumping all over the place.
Yeah, stage 2 is the, hey, did you know? Well, no, stage 2 is the, did you know you can jump stage? Stage 3 is the, did you know you can wall jump stage?
Like I said, it's not too bad at first, but it's when they start getting persnickety with the level design, like the next ledge you have to jump to is just like you can just reach it, and you spend about 25 lives getting to that ledge, figuring out that the one place to do the proper jump to move ahead. And I suppose it's worth noting that death is pretty cheap here. Like, the only penalty for death is this is one of those games that has a death counter. You know, and I'm presuming that there's probably deathless achievements, but death is like Super Meat Boy. You die, you respawn pretty quickly. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have the speed or the tempo of Super Meat Boy.
Yeah, because you do move fairly fast. In fact, you're kind of slippery, but you also need to not move quickly because you can't see where you're going.
Right. And to compound this, it's not just dealing with the level design as your sole difficulty. There are enemies, that you have to contend with later on pretty quickly. In fact, this culminates into boss fights, which admittedly I did not get to.
Oh, yeah, you do have a shot, and you can also see a small circle around your bullets.
Yeah.
So
you get many kinds of shots. Like there's this one that goes up and basically does fireworks all over everything. That'll show you like how the level is constructed and maybe take out some enemies, that kind of deal. Like, and strictly speaking, there's not a lot to talk about here. Although this game wants to be deeper than it looks. And by that I mean there's apparently a story to this.
It's one of those games where you're going through platform stages and then there's stuff written in the background for you to find.
Yeah, it's like, I guess that's a thing, but I didn't care. I mean, you're a block.
Yes, it is fairly difficult to empathize over much with a black square in a world of black squares.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not impossible, but you actually have to inject some character into the block. I'm like, this can be done. I mean, for like the companion cube.
Yeah, and you do wiggle a little when you jump and stuff, but you're mostly way too featureless.
I mean, the easiest way would be it's a ship carrying a person.
Yeah, that's what they did in Arkanoid.
Yep.
It's like Arkanoid had more character than this. I'm like, everything just looks the same. And, it's not bad aesthetically, but it's, I kind of got the sense of been here, done that. Like, no specific game come to mind, but I wasn't exactly wowed by the aesthetical values of this game either.
Yeah.
But these are minor quibbles compared to the big cracks that are the shitty level design and the shitty controls. I'm sorry, there's just no other way to put it. And I was surprised at how unworkable the whole formula was. As yes, that's not the first impression you get if you just look at it.
It looks pretty polished. That's because it's pretty easy for small geometric stuff to look polished.
Right.
And yeah, the general movement is actually pretty decent, but all of the other ways of interacting with the environment, I mean, even the shooting is a little clunky, and this is a game where you want to have fluid controls because of what you're trying to do.
Right. And it gets frustrating, especially on some of the harder jumps, because it feels like you're brute forcing your way through via luck versus actual skill.
Yeah, and first world platform, you never want to brute force it.
As far as the music goes, there's like one techno track that keeps playing.
Raise your hand if you could tell that this was going to be a game with a disco music.
I'm like, it's fine. It's there. You'll probably tune it out pretty quickly. I suppose I wish I had more to say about this game, but it's a pretty simple game. 100 levels. It's not very long. Provided I suppose you can get through it. Like it's like that classic longevity through difficulty. Like because the game starts ramping up its difficulty a lot sooner than you'd expect. Like it starts getting hard in level 10, level 15. You'd expect this kind of challenge like maybe level 50, something like that. Now, its learning curve, if it has one, is a lot spikier than you'd expect. I suppose on the good side, this isn't a mobile game, or at least it doesn't come across as a mobile game. It's like let me just check if it is on mobile. Because there's a game called Glow Flow, Glow Hockey, Glow R, but no Glow. That's not a surprise because as bad as it is with like keyboard or controller, the thought of a touchscreen with this kind of game, just no.
Something outlawed by the Geneva Convention.
It's too slippery. Like the controls are just too loose for. I mean, I guess you could work it because it's a single button interface, but I just don't see it meshing well, especially since one of the secret bad things about touchscreen gaming is the finger problem. You got to put your finger on the fucking screen, and that blocks your view.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny Nintendo actually got this right with Super Mario Run, where there's a giant blank space at the bottom where you can tap on.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to Glow, price, currently it's running for about $5. Like $5 is about what I would pay for this. About the most I would pay. Like the game is simple enough and it's short enough. For that price range. Any more, I would have said a flat out no. That being said, I still found this game fairly below average. Especially since it looks like it has a lot more potential than it does.
Just go play Super Meat Boy with like construction paper over 3/4 of the screen.
Yeah, well, like Super Meat Boy is like usually on $5 sales frequently, so.
Yeah, granted, aesthetically, this game is pretty far away from Super Meat Boy. So, go buy Glowfish or Glow. Better games, more worth your time. I know they're not like aesthetically linked, but. That really does seem to be the biggest thing that this game has going for it. It's it's simple aesthetics and it's obnoxious gimmick. Because I'll be honest, I wasn't really keen on the whole you can only see a few feet in front of you thing either.
Well, and that doesn't work when they're asking you to make jumps that are like 4 times that length by stage 5.
Right, and well, it's also I've seen this particular gimmick in other games. It's just it's usually restricted to the dark place. You're going through the cave level or the sewer level or the place where you would expect your vision to be restricted, and it's only like a fucking level. This is an entire game out of that fucking level, and it's annoying. So. That's where I'm at with this game. Galax?
I barely played it all, but yeah, I agree. It's not
Like I said,
I don't think the controls are terrible, but they're not as good as it needs to be because they're asking you to do something that's very hard to do in platforming as basically the basis of the entire game.
All right.
Platforming without being able to see is not something that's easy to do.
All right. So I think that'll about do it for Glow. Be sure to tune in after a bit of a break for our third review, Icebox Speed Gunner. And until such time, I wish you good gaming.